Derivatives trading involves substantial risk loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Good morning. Sorry about that. I'm a little late again. Well, we are getting a little bit of a move up. That's interesting. On a reversal there. Well, I don't know. It's kind of interesting. I don't think I want to buy it. I think I wait for an overextension on the other direction. But let's just watch and see. Good morning, Algo Lover. Let's go look at the charts. So what we're seeing right now is we've had a little bit of a move down. Now we're retracing it. Here at 17.5 is a spot that is probably going to get defended a little bit. But there does appear to be some risk on in the market. So there's the Treasuries moving up, or moving down. And there's the E-mini moving up. E-mini is taking a little step back. We don't have a whole lot on the calendar this week. It is Jackson Hole. Is that it? I think there's. Let me double check. Let's double check. Yep, we've got. Well, on Wednesday there is like existing home sales. Unemployment claims, of course. Flash manufacturing PMI. Jackson Hole Symposium on Thursday and Friday. Oh, we do get FOMC meeting minutes on Wednesday. That'll be a big deal. All right, Algo Lovers looks like he's leaving us early, but what's he got here? ZB, if sellers hold a bounce below 165.19, then 162.17. Okay, well, we're quite below that. And then ES, if they hold this pullback above 29.17. They're awfully close to that one. Let's see. I can already see, excuse me, that the long rates want to move down more than the other rates. Okay, so there's my possibly my signal right there. Nope, they're gonna go without me. 195 in line, huh? Well, it didn't quite give me the signal that I wanted, but the 5-year dropped out there so strongly. So this is a kind of situation that I think is going to make things a little bit difficult because it's going to be a pretty quiet week. And we do appear to be set up in a good position to move down if everybody behaves. But there's going to be people, I mean, if we are going to move down, what they're going to do is they're going to bump it up and try and make it look like it's really going and like that's risk off all of a sudden and then flip it on you and push it down a ton as everybody stops out. At least that's what they did last time that we were really coming down for an extended period. But, you know, whenever you see that, it's going to be like, oh, did something else happen? Is China still out there trying to mess everything up? You know, that sort of a thing. It's so that alone can make it difficult. And, you know, this is a place where I think China in particular would have a pretty high incentive to try and mess things up again. Because can you imagine, after everything else that has happened this month, and then we get even a tiny breather and we move up big, that would be really devastating to what China has been trying to do to the markets, you know? Lots of people in here today. We got Alligator back. I'm excited about that. A big special shout out to him because he was the first one, really the first person that I think we had in the Discord. He's been there since day one, before we even did the stream. And I don't think that any of this would have happened without him. Algo Lover says, "Trade, don't overthink it, trade what you see." Yeah, I agree. Well, what I see right now is that maybe I had a good spot, but they are, at the very least, trying to scare me out of it. It wouldn't necessarily be a bad idea to get out at 16.5, but let's see what they do. They're churning quite a bit here. I think they might have tried to flip it there and didn't have enough people long to squeeze out. All right, I'll check you out. Hope to see you later, Algo Lover. You do what you gotta do. I think he's making the rounds to everybody else, huh? I'll see, that's not. By the way, Bitcoin up quite a bit higher. Well, not quite a bit, but it certainly looks like it's making a good recovery. At least that was the top of a wave. Let's see how far down they go. There was a little bit of selling there in the E-mini. Well, that didn't sound good for my back. Pull back to overnight res completed, probably a fulcrum level. Good point. Zero Hedge says, "Remember when Bitcoin was volatile? Australia 100-year bonds enter correction down 10%. That's a good one. I think I want to put that. Oh, where's my... Sometimes things don't open. Let's change our little thing. Austrian. Bum, bum, bum. All those thinking that Europe has years to unroll fiscal stimulus thanks to NIRP think again. Bond market will revolt in seconds, sending yields soaring if Europe commits to more spending, especially without a fiscal authority as a backstop. Well, the thing that's going to be interesting about the European bonds is that, those yields could rise. I mean, their yields are too low. I feel like that the yields in Europe are just too low, and they could just skyrocket out of there really quickly, you know? SoloCam99, hi, just dropped by to try and learn some things. Had a very basic lesson on day trading, yet still too unknowledgeable to think about getting into this. Greetings from Australia. Oh, love. Always get a lot of traders from Australia. It seems to be a popular thing down there, but welcome. So my question to you it would be, have you set up any kind of a demo account yet? Like you can get a demo from AMP Futures for Sierra charts, or you can do one through the NinjaTrader brokerage. I even think Tradovate has one. Should try the Tradovate demo. Why don't you try the Tradovate demo for us and tell us how it goes? They have an interesting platform. But the nice thing about the Tradovate platform is that it plugs into Jigsaw quite nicely. Euro area supercore inflation rose to a new cycle high in July. Oh, Donald Trump's been tweeting this morning. Great cohesion inside the Republican Party, the best I've ever seen despite all the fake news. My poll numbers are great. New internal polls show them to be the strongest we've had so far. I think they'd be if I got fair media coverage. Also talking about Anthony Scaramucci. Anthony Scaramucci is a highly unstable nutjob who was with other candidates in the primary who got shellacked and then unfortunately wheeled his way into my campaign. I barely knew him until his 11 days of gross incompetence, made a fool of himself, bad on TV, abused staff, got fired, wrote a very nice book about me just recently. Now the book is a lie. Said his wife was driving him crazy. Something big was happening with her, getting divorced. He was a mental wreck. We didn't want him around. Now fake news puts him on like he was my buddy. Okay, SoloCam says, used NinjaTrader for a short while. We'll have a look into that. Yeah, I mean, I really like NinjaTrader, and that's what I use for my charts. But if you want to do this style of trading, you really need a good DOM. And the NinjaTrader DOM is just not up to par, unfortunately. So you want to get probably either Sierra Charts, Jigsaw Day Trader, or what's that other thing? What's that order book? Bookmap. That's what it's called. I've never tried Bookmap, but I hear good things about that as well. Okay, so quite a bit bought there at 16.5. Still not offering super strong at 16.5. I think if we do take a step down, the 30-year might lead the way. Man, see that's not good. My back is going out. E-mini has made a good little move up throughout all of this. Yeah. Another tick up, but a very, very weak bid that time. It's really funny to watch the Zero Hedge Twitter account because they're just so permanently bearish about everything. You notice anything that would be bad for markets right now, they're always focused on that. 9:14 that time. How long have we been in this? There we are. 11 minutes. Well, I really like where the E-mini is, though. I don't know. What about the currencies? Well, I should move this to 6J. I can see 6J maybe possibly turning there. Turning lower, which would be good for us. Okay, now they're holding a good offer. There you go. There you go. And the E-mini is buying that. So bid there at 16.5 there was. And 13.5. Well, one thing that is nice, there's a lot more liquidity this week, huh? Okay, another good solid downtick. Last week, the site deposits rose CHF 3.7 billion, the largest amount in recent weeks, indicating a rising intervention pressure. Euro CHF is under pressure from global risk off and outlook for ECB easing in September. That's a Danske Bank research. Still getting them clickies on the downside. But it's not quite there. So that time they moved an ask. They pulled some at 16. That's interesting. Direction, but I'm just a little curious why they seem to be so hesitant to move. Let's load them on all of these. Okay, 15.5 looks weak. Come on. But then they don't hold an offer. Drag it. ZBO2 bid of 1420 contracts has been there for a while. Yes. Good observation. I missed that. That's been there ever since we moved up, in fact. There we go. Get rid of that. Alligator says it seems there's a calendar arbitration opportunity in GE at the moment. In the euro dollar? I can see we're just starting to get some high activity in the 5-year. Oh, we were at it just for a second. Okay. Somebody gonna sell it? The market has been behaving. I think it's been quite interesting when we've come to these big orders. I think as of recent, My recollection from last week was every time that we saw a big order, we had a very hard time getting away from it. That we would get sucked down to the big order, and somebody would sell through it big time. And then sometimes, like the one I can really remember was we sold through it, and it went down, and so everybody thought, oh, it went through it. Everybody thought, okay, so we're just going to move down through, and we can get a trend down. And then eventually we came back up and went higher. So this one's kind of interesting to me because it's just not something I would expect to see on a Monday, you know? Well, so far I'm seeing, they're building up a pretty decent offer above it. At least 200. 200 is okay, right? In ZB. Um, probably the 10-year needs to tick down, but um, they don't look terribly. They don't seem like they're in a rush to fill them, do they? And the 5-year is. Look at it now. It looks real. Oh yeah, I'd say for sure it's real. I mean, if they trade through O2, there's going to be 1,400 trade there for sure. Okay, 257 offer now. There's an iceberg at 15 in the 10-year. In the 5-year, we need that 092 to pull. Mm-hmm. You say O2 goes gray for Seth? What do you mean by that? I would like to see it fall through. For sure. I think that's what he means. that right there is a problem. 5-year's not quite ready to go. In fact, the 5-year might be reversing there. See? So there's a little. Or no, I mean, there's an iceberg there at 15, right? How much is it going to take for them to make 15 go offer? Okay, 3,000 almost. And then barely they put an offer. And this 30-year isn't really stacking up big yet either. Yeah, if they hit Greg's saying if they hit that O2, could be good. Because what often happens when they go through something like that is it just goes G, 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 G. Because there's a lot of people that try and buy in front of those. But kind of what I was trying to point out earlier is you got to be careful with them because it could fall through and go down 4 ticks and then immediately reverse. And we are getting a lot of activity here now too. Hmm. I just got a ton of skipped frames there. All right, I took 3 on it because I'm getting an out. So I don't know, that could be a continuation. If it's a continuation, this is going to be a good move down, but it's a little too tepid for my tastes. I still hope that they sell it. It's always fun to see it when they sell through one of these. Hmm. I'm still seeing a little bit more activity on the offer side. Greg says 1,000 contracts bought at 03. See, the longer that they hold over 200 there at 03, I'd say the more likely it is that they go through. Especially now that 14.5 is pulling a little bit. But you can see, for some reason, nobody wants to be the one that does it. It'll probably happen very fast, and I'll be like, guess I should have stayed in. But that's now for me. I think my strategy says that in that particular instance, that I should take it. Because that's a reversal signal for me in the 10-year. And it's given me every reason to think that'll hold. Still could be a pullback long for an overnight gap fill. Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is that if they went through that at 02 and they were hitting, like 01, okay, like that. Okay. 01. So here I would be trying to get out. Because they always fall through them and then revert back to it. You only got 2 ticks down from that. Isn't that crazy? So really waiting for it, there was one more tick in it. Probably not worth it. Yeah, so you say it was all in one trade. So I can see somebody sold 946, somebody sold 174, and the rest were small lots. So a little bit of everything. AM Goldman report bonds overdone. Can you link me to that? We could put that in our little news ticker down there. Hong Kong, China markets gain most in 2 months as trade progress Shenzhen plan boosts sentiment. Iran warns U.S. don't interfere with tanker's passage. Mole's naval escort. I want to add that one in too. I need to stretch my back out here. Yeah, my back really like popped there. Now I can feel it in my sternum. So I can see here there was a signal, right? And then it's going into a zipper. And there's the sell in the ZB, which takes us down almost to lows in cumulative delta. So now we just gotta watch. Man, maybe I should go and do the foam roller. I don't know what the deal is today, but it's just really. It seemed, like everywhere that I'm looking, except for Zero Hedge, who is always perpetually pessimistic. It seems like everybody seems to be looking risk on. Mm-hmm. Sent a little tweet there. By the way, if you're not following me on Twitter, would love to follow you. In fact, because I might not know, I might not realize that you're a viewer. So, feel free to just drop your Twitter name here in chat. Okay, so 14 win offer. This is where they're gonna really tumble down. Not quite. That doesn't mean that they're not going to push lower, but it might be one of those, one tick down, one tick up, two ticks down, one tick up sort of a thing. Kellyanne Conway at the White House. The fact is, the fundamentals of our economy are very strong. Well, anytime that I see the administration out trying to talk up the economy, the market seems to fight them on it, don't you? Wouldn't you say? Okay, they did finally get 31 in ZB, so there you go. Interesting to me, though, the cumulative deltas in these instruments are going quite drastically odd directions. Because the 10-year bought back up quite a bit, whereas the 5 and 30, 5 and the 30 haven't moved down. They're just still going down. And sure enough, you got like a zipper there. Now another tick lower. 13 was where was it? No, it wasn't the open, but another thing I'm noticing is that the E-mini pulled back quite a bit here. There was a big iceberg at the top, and they're lower now. Sacramucci says the left should create an off-ramp for Trump officials that tries to deprogram them from the cult. I think is stupid how they traded up the treasuries. I kind of also thought that the little move that happened before we started streaming that was up kind of seems like a little nonsensical to me. But that's just where I'm saying that it's like what they'll do is they'll make it seem like we're moving up. And then once they've stomped out every short retail trader, then they'll go short. Because really, if you think about the longer term trend, like the longer term trend, right? We've been moving up, and now it appears to be time for a little bit of reversion. We're going to be moving down, and so every retail trader out there probably wants to short this. I think. I mean, probably other people have different things, but I mean, like, we're below the opening range low, we're below the open, we're below the bull bear zone, we're below the VWAP. On a longer term time frame, there appears to have been some sort of a reversal potentially this week. Like, they're going to short. And so if we really are moving down and you're a big guy and you want to go short, how are you going to do that? Because everybody's just going to move it down as quickly as they can against you, you know? So you get these sorts of things, like this in the 5-year. Zoop. The 3 ticks up for no reason, and then lower. Or odd reversal higher. Then it finally breaks. It sits there and is tepid, like maybe they're going to reverse, which is why we had to get out. And then it goes lower. You know, it'll be like really, really difficult to try and get in, and then when they actually do go short, it'll just do it really way too fast. Yeah, Lucas was talking about the pre-open. My read was they broke the upper profile on the way down and formed a new volume profile lower. When that happens, it is rare they trade up to the upper profile unless there's news. So I went short once and twice. Gotcha. Well, where were we at? We were at 17. Yeah. I get what you're saying. So here was the profile here. You're saying this was a profile and this was a profile. So when it came up to here, you said, no, they're gonna keep it. They're gonna keep it within this profile, and they probably broke you like, where was it? At 15. They probably broke you right here. It's really lame how they do that, huh? Man, it is hot again in this room. My AC for some reason has been really stubborn. Well, it says that it's 69 outside my door, which is just what it should be. Yep, of course I was right, but they needed my 2 lots first. Totally. Well, I think it's not the 2 lots. I think it's that they can tell. It's like it has to do something to cause the rotation. See, like right here, everybody's getting short. Comes down. All of the longs get stopped out. You get the rotation. Same here. This was a move lower and there was a rotation again, but they used this rotation to start squeezing them lower. But they're having a hard time with it, aren't they? Like here, there was a 3K iceberg at 13 and they were able to buy up through it. But that's, typical Monday thing too, isn't it? A lot of bids here for some reason. So that could be an entry there at 13.5. Long. I'd rather not. That felt good. I keep looking over here to my Twitter. Maybe there's some good news now. But the only thing that I really see is that Donald Trump made fun of Anthony Scaramucci. You know what though? That last tweet of his reminded me of a ton of stuff that we forgot about, didn't it? Because there was he pointed out 2 things that I had forgotten about. One was that at the time that Anthony Scaramucci was on the campaign, after that, Anthony got divorced. And which it's kind of weird because these divorces happen a lot around these kind of things. Well, yes, lots of bids here, and we haven't moved a single tick. Well, we did move up 1 tick. We did move up 1 tick. This is really choppy Monday, right? Hey Ace, how's it going? Ace, so I every time that you comment on those Facebook groups, it gives me a little, not a notification, but it shows me in my feed. And man, some of your replies to the people there are hilarious. He basically goes to all of the little trading Facebook groups and calls people out. Like there was this guy the other day that it was making some claim about how much money you were going to make that was really bizarre, and he's made fun of it. It was funny. Those guys are such scammers. So the other day when I had a really good trade, really good day, I went in and I posted a link to it, and then went back and watched the stats and everything. And I think I got like 2 clicks out of that group. So it seems to me, it seems to me that that group only exists for people to try and promote their scams, or, to post pictures and feel good about themselves. But I don't think any actual productive activity happens there. I mean, I've been in a few threads where there was some interesting information and everything, but overall, I wasn't really too impressed. It was kind of weird. Well, it was kind of the same thing at futures.io. It was like, it always seemed to me that like the thing that I wanted, the kind of conversation that I wanted to see, that I wanted people to be talking about, or not that I wanted them to talk about, but like what I wanted to talk about, what I wanted to hear other people's perspectives on, was never what they talk about on futures.io, you know? And then we come in here and then we actually finally get it when it's like, in chat. Those scammers are the same as robbers, I agree. Now, was another interesting thing that was happening yesterday was somebody was asking about trading education of some sort. I don't remember the exact context, but no BS day trading showed up, or came up rather, and somebody was like, "No, you shouldn't do no BS day trading because you're learning from a failed trader." And I'm like, so how do you know that? And the basic gist of what I got from him, maybe he's responded again, but the basic gist that I got from him was that he doesn't really know. He just doesn't believe that anybody would ever actually share useful information to other people in the market. There are so many people trying to learn, those thieves come in and take advantage of them. Anyways, I hope he responds back, because my last thing was like, so you don't actually know. And my next thing was going to be ask him, because I know what the answer is going to be, right? I mean, people have asked him before, I think, but he has some periods of profitability and some periods of unprofitability, but overall, he's done pretty okay. And we know many, many people that have had some very serious success doing it, right? So it's not necessarily a scam, but man, it's like, it's kind of weird the way that the psyche works. And I guess I never really had that illusion, because maybe just because I met the right people at the very beginning, but it's like people don't want to put the work in, I was just kind of thinking there. Oh, I didn't see A said short 29.22. Well, we were supposed to hold at 29. What was it? Hold on. 29.17. 29.17 was the make or break place. We are getting another event here at 13. I don't know. I personally don't feel comfortable going short the E-mini, but I'm just looking at everything and it looks like Ace has a really good setup here. Although there would certainly have to be, it hasn't gone below 21.75 yet, has it? I was going to say that it just seems to me that people want it easy. They don't want to put the work in. And the truth of the matter is, with anything competitive, you really have to put the time in. And I say that if a person doesn't want to put the time in, and they end up wasting their money on an education that's not useful, ooh, not like that. So come back down. But, they spend their money on an indicator that doesn't do anything, whatever it is. whatever it is, if you wasted your money because you were trying to take a shortcut, your own damn fault. I would never be the type of person that would try and take advantage of people like that. But if you go for there, you get what you deserve. Then I can't feel bad for you. Let's see here. A couple of good comments here. Dojo says, I get a laugh out of those life of a day trader videos where the guy shows himself drinking coffee and working out at the gym and then sitting in front of a bunch of screens and then driving away in a Lambo. I've never actually come across videos like that, for futures at least. There's always those education commercials that will often show up on my channel where, for education courses. And Lucas says, John from No BS trades live, which is more than most traders can say and do, and he makes money. I still can't do what the guy consistently does. Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the things that the guy was pointing out was like, if you look in his live webinars, he takes like $5,000, and there have been webinars where he came out and he wasn't, over the course of the webinar, he didn't come out positive. And I'm just like, well, you can't take any 2-week trading period and say that that's indicative of whether or not the strategy works. But the thing that's even more frustrating about it is that he's not really teaching a strategy per se. He's teaching a skill, and he is so effing good at it. I tell you what, I watch some people every once in a while. People will send me. I keep getting reversal signals, by the way. I keep getting that they were going to move up, but then we're just staying here, so I'm staying out. Anyways, people will record the webinars, and after the webinar, they'll come back and show me, and give their report on it. And two things. Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever spoken to somebody that took the webinar and regretted it. I think that everybody that has taken that has learned something that they thought was important and useful. But then the other thing was, I remember watching him one day, and there was kind of a move down, and he got run over like 3 or 4 times in a row. He's like, sometimes this happens to me. It's easy to get caught in that trap. And I was like, oh man, I've certainly done that too. And I kind of got an idea of what kind of places he was trying to take and things like that. But then there was other places where it was like he saw a short there, and it was a really good short. And I would go back and I would look at my own trading, and I was clueless. And it was just so, it was so interesting to me to see how well I understood it, and yet how much better at it he was than me. You know what I mean? The experience counts for something. I tell you what. Live action. The best are those trader contests where the winner is the guy who lost the least. Oh man. Well, it's what CME has been doing those contests, and who was it? We had a guy come into the Discord a couple of weeks ago that had won the CME contest, I think. That one runs on CQG, which is an okay platform. I'm happy that they're doing stuff like that. I remember one of the things that I did early on was there was this kind of online bucket shop sort of a thing. It was like, Asa says he went out with a loss. But you held on to it until now. Oh, that's interesting. I don't know. Like look at this in the ZV. I'm going to take a picture of that. I used to daydream about retiring and living off of trading with only 1 year of experience. Reality is showing me I probably need way more experience. Yeah, I think, well, I think everybody does that, thinks about that, right? Like, I tell you what, I want, I want an alpaca farm. That's what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to, I don't want to move though, so maybe I will just have to have the alpaca farm. We'll just have to be a little bit off away, maybe up in the mountains, because I don't want to move up into Park City, but whatever. I don't want to trade for the 2 hours. I would still do the stream, but I would only, but I wouldn't stream all day. I would just stream until 10:30 Eastern time, until the London close, and then I would go and take care of my alpaca farm, and then if there was time left, I would make some music, maybe, I think. And that's what I think I would do. I think everybody thinks about those sorts of things. But I think another thing that I think about, that I think is useful, because it's all about like, oh, how do you explain it? How to explain it? I remember when I was divorced, one of the thought exercises that they would take you through was like to imagine a house, like your perfect dream place, and all of the things in it, and then imagining bringing people into it and things like that. And and it's just kind of a thought exercise because it's good for your brain to exercise that imaginary powers and towards pushing towards something, I guess. But I always will also try and think about going through the experience of just grinding it out. You know what I mean? Like I think about, yeah, there'll be good times and bad times, and here's a trade that you're going to take that's going to be really good, and here's days where it's going to be bad and you're going to learn something. And I think that to really be successful in trading, one of the first things that you have to accept is that it takes a long time and it's going to be a lot of work if you actually ever end up being successful, because it's a competitive thing. And Lucas says, I train a lot. I love sports in general, but mostly MMA and boxing. I want to have time for that. There you go. I really need to buy myself a weightlifting set for my garage so that I don't have to drive all the way out to Sandy every day. Donald Trump retweeting his hit on Anthony Scaramucci. Well, that's interesting. Agreed. For me, it isn't about the money. I'm okay if I never drive a Lambo, but to have time to do things, travel with family. Maybe. I tell you what, man, I don't. I just listed out like what I think my day would be like and everything, but the truth is it's a little scary to me to have the thought of having that much free time. Because if I just skip the gym, I'm like, wow, there's so much free time. This weekend, I didn't have to work on the yard. Well, we went to a Pomsky meetup. We went and met some Pomskys. Oh my gosh, they are so cute. I think I really want a Pomsky, but I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know if I want the fur. But I did that, and then I played Overwatch for most of the rest of the weekend. I played it a lot, and I was like, man, this is a lot of time to just kill. But, whatever. Kids start school this week, so I guess it was kind of the time to be like super relaxed. I don't know if I'll get another weekend quite like that in a while. Anyways. Okay. So it did kind of give us a little bit of a reversal signal, but we continue to inch lower. You can see it right there in the 30 year actually showed two signals there. And here was a signal in the end. It actually did go a little bit higher, but now lower. So maybe Pomsky. No. It's a POMSKI. And what it is, oh no, not SKY, SKI. What it is it's a Pomeranian Husky mix. They're so cute. It's basically it's a Pomeranian that looks like a husky, like the shape and the hair and the face and everything is a Pomeranian, but then the markings in the eyes are a husky. They're so cool looking. They're very expensive. It's like $2,000 for a dog. Zero hedge, a highly unstable nut job. He already tweeted that. Why did he tweet that again? I think that, everybody says that Donald Trump, what is he doing up so early in the morning tweeting? I'm telling you, he uses one of those applications that posts it for him at a certain time of day. You probably wrote that last night before he went to bed. He does it because then you get the late afternoon news cycle in the European markets, and that derives interest to the tweets. So when everybody gets to work here in the US markets here in, 30 minutes or whatever, then that first thing that they see is what Donald Trump would tweet it about. It's all timing to optimize the Twitter algorithm. Anyways, the other thing I said earlier, there's two things that he's reminding us about there that I'd forgotten about. The other thing was that he wrote a book. He wrote a book that was very, very positive about Donald Trump. And I'm telling you, what happened was Anthony tried to play up the I'm pro-Trump angle, and all of the pro-Trumpers were like, well, we don't really trust you because you really screwed up. And so after trying that for it's been like 2 years now and not failing, he finally realized, oh, if I just really, really attack the president hard, then CNN will put me on every time that I want to say something. And the more crazy of a thing that I can say, the more interested they are in putting me on. That's totally what it is. And I think Donald Trump gets to, rail against them. Really, it seems like it's a win-win. It's a win-win situation, isn't it? For all people involved. Dojo says the Mooch was a classmate of Obama. Oh, I did not know that. Gregor Lasky preloaded insults. I'm telling you, it's what he does. I don't know what the name of the application is, but there's an application that will you put the tweet in there, and it will post it for you. It will also split your tweets up for you. Although I think that all of the Twitter applications will do that now, right? He's not necessarily up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Although I suppose, Eastern time, it's 9:30, he probably is up. Rarely a good sign when it doesn't move as expected. This support didn't hold. Sentiment seems risk on, but ES at R2 at open. Pullback risk after initial flush. Mm. I'm not sure if I had heard of that Scaramucci was a classmate of Obama before. I mean, wouldn't have been surprised. I don't know if he actually knew Obama. It was one of those things that I always say that like nobody in school really, very few people actually knew him back in his college days. We still don't know what Obama's thesis was about. I guarantee you that it was something offensive. Not offensive, but it would have been like some sort of like intersectionality, super left wing sort of a thing that really would have hurt his campaign if it had ever come out. Though I gotta tell you, you know what's kind of funny to me? So I remember with Obama, the argument was always, what is the true Obama? You remember that? What is the true Obama? I thought he grew up in Kenya. Yeah, no, that's true too. He did grow up in, well, it wasn't Kenya, wasn't it? A lot of it was in Indonesia too. But a lot of it was he grew up overseas, which to me always kind of bothered me. Like, it just, and the other thing was, it bothers me with Ted Cruz too, to be honest. Because Ted Cruz, he didn't grow up in the United, he lived in Canada until he was like 13 or something like that. Which, like, I guess it's Canada, it's close enough that it's about the same thing. But to me, it's like if until you were a teenager, you lived in a foreign country, you did not grow up in the United States. It changes the way that you think. It absolutely does. It absolutely does. It's not. I know people would say that that's like racist. I don't think it's racist. I think it's just a product of your upbringing. If you were born in the United States and you're a white guy, and then when you were 6 months old, your family moved over to France and you lived there until you were 14, that has a significant change on the way that you think about the world, and you don't necessarily see things the way that other Americans do. But anyways, it was always the thing like, who is the real Obama? And a lot of people said he's a radical, right? And you can kind of see that. It's kind of weird because it's almost like everything that everybody said about him was all contradictory and yet true at the same time. Because he was very much a radical. He did many very radical things in office. Oh, here's the e-mini open. He did many, like the way that he pushed the liberal activism, right? But then on the same token, he was very moderate on a lot of things. And even today, he's going and saying, hey, you guys in the Democrat Party, what you're saying and trying to do here is a little crazy. Maybe you should back off. Isn't it so weird that it was really like the right's worst fears about him were both true and not true. But it's kind of weird now to be thinking about it and being like, oh, Barack Obama actually is like the moderate in the Democrat Party right now. Because the rest of the party has moved so far left. But I think that the thing is that Barack Obama encouraged the party to go left beyond what he thought was okay. Haven't you ever had something like that where you say something and then people end up taking it way further than what you originally intended? I certainly see a lot of that these days. It's like anything on the online, it gets started and it just keeps going, and it just all of a sudden you think it's crazy. He says I got a short at 29.24. Well, Algo Lovers told us 29.17 was like his make or break point, but be careful what you ask for because you might just get it, yeah. Well, I felt like, so like a good example of something that I thought really got out of hand was I remember during the election, I was totally all in on the shit posting, okay? Because I saw it as a very effective political tactic. It was something that I had been using for a long time, and I found when you do this sort of a thing, the people that are basing their politics off of feelings get super triggered, and then everybody kind of sees what's going on, and it really changes their opinion. Because they can see the other side, falling apart from the logical inconsistencies, you know? And so I was totally all in on the shit posting. And then since the election, I can see how it was like everybody started doing what I was doing. And it was like when it was just me and like the political activists trying to get Donald Trump elected, and then I'm sure that Russians and other people probably got involved too. But when it was like okay. But now when it's like everybody's doing it, it's just like total chaos. It's like hard it's like hard to even listen to politics anymore sometimes, Well, it might be giving me a short there at 12. I'm a little wary about this because the E-mini is still opening and it could whip around a little bit, but I think that might actually be giving me a short at 12. Anyways, I think that they just went way too far. They also, another thing that I think that we're kind of involved with, or had, they went way too far. I don't want to say involved with, but an idea that I thought that like, okay, they have a reasonable point, but then people started taking it too far was like the whole like, I think the best way they described it was like it's okay to be white. It was like it seemed like there was this part of the Liberal Party that just doesn't want to like white people no matter what, regardless of whatever it is that you're doing. And so to me, there's this thing where it's like, you're better off treating everybody equally, because if you start giving certain people privileges, it just kind of perpetuates and keeps the system out of balance. And you're never going to bring the system into balance by being unfair. That's what I think. That was a strong bid there at 12.5. Maybe we're not going to get a short. I'm unsure about this spot. Anyways, so, and I was even, I'm even on board with it. I think that Western culture is great, and I'm not going to say that it's like better than everything or perfect or anything like that, but I certainly think that it's been one of the reasons that America has been successful has been because of the Western values that we hold, for sure, right? And I'm concerned that certain people are trying to tear those down, particularly free speech, right? That was all fine and dandy. But then all of a sudden people start coming out and are like, oh, we should make America a white ethno state. And it's like, what the how did you get that out of that? It was like, it went way too far. And it's probably only just a few people, but still, I tell you what, take the really crazy people like the shooters and stuff aside. I will post on Reddit and in the Donald subreddit, and I'll have people tell me things that I think are crazy all the time. And you have to put them in their places. Like what you're saying, like directly contradicts what the president said. You should be, like people posting in the Donald subreddit should be banned for some of the things that they say about that stuff sometimes. It says a guy could have gotten 2 points out of that, but not me. I do. There's some people on the right say crazy things all the time. I'm also, I just can't do the conspiracy theory stuff. Lots of anti-Semitism in Zero Hedge comments, right? Right? And the people like, so one place, oh, this was very disappointing to me. So there was a subreddit called Cringe. This is a long story. Maybe you know this story, but there was a subreddit called Cringe. And it was basically like a place where when somebody posts something really cringy on Facebook, you would put it, right? And the problem was that the administrators of Cringe were administrating too much and appeared to be having some political bias in the way that they posted things. And that happens in a lot of subreddits where it's like anytime that something like kind of points out liberal hypocrisy, it kind of somehow ends up getting deleted. It happens a lot on Unpopular Opinion, for instance. Anyways, so these guys, they went and made, these right-wing guys, they went and they made another one called Cringe Anarchy. Oh, but there's Win. How's it going? I will give you 3 points because you are ace of my trades observing little heart. Hello? Seth just popping in to say hello. Hope everyone had a fun weekend. That was good. Missed you on Friday. Man, so what's it doing here? I said the short was maybe at 12, but it could give you two ticks up. But man, I just don't like this trade. I might, because it's a Monday, I might not take another trade, or I might wait until after 8 o'clock. So these guys, they went and they made a subreddit called Cringe Anarchy, right? And at first, it was great because it was like, it was basically just pictures of liberal people saying dumb things, basically. And I enjoyed it. It was fun. And it was just making fun of liberal people. But then as time went on, it was like lots of anti-Semitic comments, and then the submissions started to become outright anti-Semitic, and eventually Reddit came in and shut that subreddit down, and I think that they were justified in doing so, because it was really crazy anti-Semitic. It was like anytime that they saw something they didn't like, they somehow found a way to blame Jews for it. It was kind of scary to me, to be honest. One says, I'm listening to Buddha meditation at night and cleansing my chakra. Why not give something new a try? I hope my chakras are appearing all clean now. Well, I don't necessarily believe in chakra, but the meditation and stuff is good for you. Research shows such meditation is good for you. So like I'm just seeing this and it's like, okay, so 12 win offer again. They did potentially give us a short, but she looks like she's going to turn lower, and I'm concerned that what could happen is she either doesn't make a new low, or she barely makes a new low and then reverses or something. It just seems a little bit too churny here still. And I'm not sure if I can pick a safe spot. I think let's just keep in mind it would have been 12. Let's see what they do. There was a good downtick, right, at 11.5, but 11.5 was like the balance area from before, so they've got to go below that for this trade to have really been worth it. If they were, yours would be sparkly clean, says Ace on the chakras thing. That's great. See this, and this tick down at 11.5. I actually think they are going to tick down, but I'm a little concerned about it because it kind of looks to me like that kind of spot where I would FOMO in at 11, and then it would reverse on me, Live action, this 20 level, where are you seeing 20? What, 12? I'm sorry. I was saying that wrong. It's at 12 that I was seeing it. When it came up at 12 and it was 12 to 12 half, it was telling me maybe that it was a short NCN. Yeah. Yeah, sorry. For whenever I look at that, yeah, I have to remember like that's 12, 11 and a half. And when I look at it, I want to read 120, 110. You know what I mean? School starts tomorrow. Kids start the same day that mine do. How old are your kids again? Next time I should offer my chakras a bubble bath. Ancient Chinese secrets. I took yoga for years, and that is wonderful and makes the lady flexible. I would like to do yoga, but the times that I have free, they don't do, like, I could do yoga on Friday night. Who does yoga on Friday night? Nobody does yoga classes on Friday night. Some hit into 11. Emini's buying. Waffles and chicken. Yeah, Ace makes a good waffle. I mean, it looks like they're going to break, and then... Now this one is interesting because the E-mini is moving down a little bit, and that 11 is looking all weak. Yeah, so kind of being annoying. Utah Sundance's Aces Waffles. That's right. Yeah, if you come by, we could meet up. We could even, I can fly almost anywhere. I almost never take advantage of it, but I should start doing so. We could do, some meetups out east and stuff. Is it gonna go? See, this is just not. I'm definitely leaving some on the table here, but I can't tell. Discretionarily, I think that I caught my trade, and the rest of today has kind of just been a movement that my particular strategy can't necessarily take advantage of. Because there's not enough people actually trading for me to get my spots. Actually, consider doing a weekend retreat here where I live. We are in Wyndham Resort Community, and there are lakes, stables, golf. I could host weekend retreats 4 times a year. Oh, there you go. Well, I wanted to do. We kept talking about doing something when the meteor shower was, but first of all, it was a little bit earlier this year for some reason. That kind of caught me off guard. With it, there's other stuff going on. But I was thinking, Ace, I don't know how old your kids are if they're interested in this sort of thing, but this weekend, there is an alpaca farm that is holding an open alpaca farm event sort of a thing. So you go for like $5 and you can go and pet the alpacas. And, we're going to go. You should come. It'll be great. Alpacas are fun. And I forgot where it is at. I'll just go and find it on Facebook and send it to you. But I'm super excited. You're going to hear about this all week. I am super excited to see the alpacas. Okay, they did tick into 10.5. So here at 12, that's 3. But will they give 4? I can hear that conversation here. Hi, honey, can I go on a weekend retreat with a woman I've been flirting with online for a year? Oh, I will take pictures. Maybe I will take the camera and try and take some videos for you guys. I remember we went down to, where was it? that little village place down in Jordan. And they had alpacas there. And you could touch them. There were only 2 alpacas, though. They were kind of a little shy. But my understanding is these farms, they just love the people because they know that that's the food. And so they'll just come right up to you and you can touch them and they're super nice. And the weird thing about alpacas, because, well, I mean, I guess we've domesticated them a little bit, but even when they were out in the wild, people could just like approach them. They're not, because they didn't have any natural predators. So even though they're a little, they're still a little skittish, but they're still super friendly, naturally friendly. Kind of like dogs. When I went to the Pomsky meetup, most of the dogs that I met were actually kind of shy. Like they would kind of, if you went to go pet them, they kind of would back away until you'd been sitting around them for a bit, which I thought was interesting. I wouldn't have expected them to be. But maybe that's just the way that those owners have socialized, haven't been socializing them too much yet. Okay, so there's the E-mini is selling pretty hard here. They've actually been selling about 6K to get down to these lows. Let's see if they can make it past 29.17. We are far enough, it's been 15 minutes after the open. So we could try taking one, but I'm not convinced that they're done churning. But the other thing to keep in mind is that the treasuries are down and still down. And so a successful short in the E-mini seems a little bit less likely because of that. Tell her I am oldish, married, and like parents, she'll understand. Well, you're older than we are, at least. Oldish, I think that's the right thing. When I was younger, when I was like 29, I was totally all on board with calling other people old. But now that I'm 35, I'm the old one, apparently. You lose a little bit of hair. I'm getting some gray hairs on my chest, actually. I mean, I have a pretty hairy chest, and I've got like 3 or 4 gray hairs that just stick out so bad. It's weird. How can someone not respect and like someone who likes alpacas? That must mean something to the trail angels. I mean, the thing that's so funny about the alpaca thing is that it's like it's just random, right? Most people don't think about alpacas. Doja says, I think when I checked the rates, the 30-year was paying less than a 1 month by a basis point. Was it? Looking at the 2s and 10s, let me pull it over here. So this right here, yeah, this right here was when they inverted, right? We were down below it for a day, and then Friday we came back above it. The yield curve is probably uninverted. But I don't know what the 30-year is yielding. You can see here in the 30-year, well, that's the FYT. Here's the 30-year. So you can see in the 30-year, even though they came up there, they're doing kind of a, I don't know. It looks like they're steepening, but there still appears to be some flattening pressure in it. So now here at 13, we're in another spot where it would be where a short would make sense because there was a pretty big cluster at 13, right? 12 was the first place where we said, oh, it could have gone. But it looks like my read on that one was right because you see, if we had taken 12 half, we could have gotten 3 out of it, and that was it, which isn't terribly great. I'm wondering if we're going to get a push because of all that. I'm wondering if they're going to try and push up through this cluster, and maybe they could get some people stopped out up into 15. At least if I was some market maker with, like, tens of thousands of contracts to move around just however I felt like, and my goal was to try and screw people up as much as possible, I think what I would be doing is buying it up to 15. Oh, there's a bunch of comments here I'm missing here again. We will hire a tango teacher and a massage therapist for sure. Can you imagine here? We're like, oh, we're gonna have a meetup for this, guys. Trading room, and there's gonna be tango teacher and massage therapists. Sounds kind of sketchy to me. When Seth and I were raised, that dancing leads to hand holding, and that leads to drinking beer. And next thing you know, you're drinking coffee. So that what kind of tells me the one thing I was always kind of wondering was, because I could tell from some of your comments that you didn't sound too active, but wasn't sure if you had been raised in the church in there. We learned that you have. I gotta tell you what, Ace, it's super interesting to me to watch the cultural thing with the church. Because in my mind, like modesty. Oh, I need to move this over to the right screen. Like the concept of modesty, if you really think about it, it's all relative, right? Like when was it? Way back in the 1800s, a woman showing her ankles was immodest, right? And now it's almost kind of like, I'm kind of unsure what even immodest even is now, because we don't seem to think that a bikini is immodest. It's sex shaming. I think it is. And the other thing that's always interesting is studies have shown that women engage in it more than men. Which and the theory on that is that the women do it because if there was too much sexual availability, that it would destroy any kind of influence that they had. That's just somebody saying, I don't know if that's true, and it kind of sounds dumb to me, but I digress. So I remember in the 90s, my mouth is so dry. I remember in the 90s that wearing a shirt without sleeves as a kid was a big no-no, and wearing any kind of two-piece bathing suit was a big no-no. And now it seems to me that if you wear a bikini, nobody really considers it to be immodest anymore. You tell your 6-year-old girl to cover up to be modest, you are telling her she is a sex object and grooming her to be abused. I don't know about grooming, but I always kind of say, to me, it's like with language, it's like the way that you speak and the way that you look sends signals to other people about what kind of a person you are. So if you swear, you're telling people that you are uneducated, essentially. That's why you don't swear. And I don't think that there's necessarily anything wrong with looking sexy, but I do think that a lot of the things that society considers sexy these days are trashy. And so you're telling people that you're trashy. But I have no problem. Like when I go to the gym, I tell you what, nobody, it gets hot. Nobody there dresses modestly at the gym, right? And like a bathing suit is like a 2-piece bathing suit. Like nobody seems to care anymore. It seems to me. It's like the people that are like over, I want to say like 45, 50, you know, still maybe hold to some of those beliefs, but it seems like all of the millennials have like basically said, well, what they said back in the 90s about modesty just doesn't matter anymore. That it was over, that they were going too far, and that things have changed. Person was to say a baby in a diaper was sexy. The rest of this comment must be very good because that was quite a way to start out the thought. If a person wants to say a baby in a diaper was sexy, we know that a person has a problem. It's the same thing if they were 4 or 6 or 8. Okay. Anyways, it's just weird to see. It seems to me that the millennial generation has made a shift. So I'll give you another example. Is like I remember when I was a kid, and in some of those for the Strength of Youth pamphlets, they were saying like, don't go to parties with loud music or anything that's like too repetitive and things like that. And I'm like, and I didn't understand what the deal was with that. But now I know. But now I know that at the time, early 90s, that raves were a thing, and they were basically saying don't go to raves. And I'm kind of like, I mean, I've been to a lot of raves. Not necessarily someplace that I would recommend most teenagers go to. But, if you're an older person that has already established their identity, they're great. They're great things. I haven't tried champagne yet. It looks good, but I'm prepared for disappointment. My rural farming part of the world with more cows than people. We have Amish who are sort of like your church. Mormons. Yeah, well, Mormons aren't even close to Amish though. That's the thing that's so funny about the LDS church. There's the things that you can't do, right? Tea, coffee, smoking, other harmful drugs, premarital sex, right? Those are the things. And Mormons, LDS people are extremely, extremely strict about those things, right? But other than those things, the LDS Church is actually quite liberal thinking. But it's kind of funny because that standard, I tell you what, if the LDS Church didn't believe in, if the LDS Church thought premarital sex was okay and that you could drink coffee, they would probably be a very popular church. Probably a lot more popular than some of the other. Okay, Ace is taking a short at 29.20. I'm going to watch because I still want to see. I'm still a little worried about this 29.17. The Treasuries did move up quite a bit here, didn't they? They're still not giving us a short either. I had another thought there, but it's kind of lost on me. It's probably not too interesting of a conversation for you people outside of Utah, but I think it's interesting that things continue to evolve. And a lot of people in Utah were kind of brought up with the thinking that things aren't supposed to change. But they have. They absolutely have. I cannot follow church because I read everything. If someone quotes a Bible verse, I can quote a Shakespearean reference or Tao who I trust, but verifying its science. Yeah. Well, that's another. This is another thing that's really unique about the LDS Church compared to most other Christian churches, except for perhaps the Catholic Church, is that the LDS Church has an extremely rich history. And what is the word? Doctrine, I guess you could say. So like there's books and you can just read so much stuff. And because in the LDS Church, we believe in modern revelation. And so the thoughts of, prophets and apostles that we have, and not all those are considered doctrinal, but those are like an area of study. And you can go way too deep about those, because then all of a sudden there's this whole thing about what does it take for your dog to go to heaven and things like that. Like it gets a little bit, you can go a little bit too far down the rabbit hole sometimes, and they start talking about things that are not particularly important. But if you start studying things like that, you can just go on forever and ever and ever, especially when you get into the history stuff, because there's a lot of accusations about the history, and there's a lot of really good arguments on both sides, really. If you want to go to, there's an Mormon apologist website called fairmormon.org, and you can read about all of those, and you can see the LDS stance on most of those. But it's a wiki, and it is huge. It is huge, and they add tons of stuff to it every week, like literally it just never ends. You can just get so lost in information with the Mormon Church. I never really quite realized that until I went on my mission, because I went on my mission to Independence, Missouri, and in Independence, Missouri, there's a church that was kind of a breakoff from the LDS Church, because all of the LDS people, they lived in Independence, and then they got kicked out and left and went back to Utah and founded Utah, right? But Joseph Smith's family stayed behind, and then later, one of his family, kind of created another breakoff church of it. And so you have this other church that kind of is supposed to be based on the same foundation, but ends up being completely different and sees so many of the historical things in the church completely differently as well. And so you can go in, they love to argue about the history, which is so weird. But the world's leading fair expert, Bob Church, is in Missouri. Oh, there you go. If you care about truth, one can't rely on feelings, which is the kernel at the core of the seed. Well, I believe that is true. I have to say, though, as somebody that is very much predisposed to, you got to prove it, right? I mean, certainly here in trading, right? We can say all sorts of things, and you can have faith that your trading strategy works all you want, but that's not going to make your trading strategy successful. You know what I mean? and with politics, I really hate the conspiracy theories. It just drives me crazy when people say things that I've either I've verified are not true, or B, there's just no evidence for. Totally, it just, but here's the thing, is that, like, my brain is just predisposed to doing that. And one of the things that I've learned is that as humans, our ability to completely understand the world and truth is so incredibly limited, There's just so many things that we cannot know, or that we are very bad at knowing and very bad at being able to see. And if you were to completely live your life based only on what you knew to be true, you fall apart. You would really fall. You would be so paralyzed by the unknown. It, the concept of faith is not just something that religion has invented. It is a essential function that, if we were going to take an evolutionary perspective, I think it's an essential function that has evolved in us because it's necessary for us to survive and to act in the world, to have faith in things. So if you are a incredibly truth-based person, skeptical person like myself, then the thing comes down to you have to pick and choose, right? And so if you're going to choose which parts of your life, you're going to allow it to be based on faith or not, and pick the ones where it's okay if it's not like that. You know what I mean? So like, I can't pick my trading strategy based on faith. That wouldn't make sense. But there's a couple of comments here. Could that make sense that we will be in a recession by December? Decoupling effects on consumer confidence, Google heuristics availability. Faith is gullibility dressed in Sunday best? Oh. Well, he says if you turn skepticism's light on your religion, you would see the scam. Well, that may well be the case, but I'm just saying you have to choose some places in your life where you're going to have faith in things. Anyways, I will, on the recession stuff. I don't think there's any way to know. There's no way for me to know. I can't say anything. The one thing that I will say is that the signal that we're in a recession because of the flattening yield curve. The flattening yield curve. It's not a real signal yet. It would have to be inverted for a month for that to be the real signal. And even then, it depends on whether you believe that an inverted yield curve causes recessions or is a signal of a recession. And why would you use faith? It's not a reliable path to truth. Well, it doesn't have to be. But isn't that kind of my point, though, is that there are some situations where truth is either unknowable or you are extremely unlikely to find it. And so it is useful for individuals to live on with their lives and to act in the world, to have faith in some things. It's like, particularly when it comes down to things like, what is the purpose of my life? What is it that I'm supposed to be doing with it, right? Because in all reality, we could probably go through and we could say, okay, what would be the most effective use of your life that would be the most beneficial to society? And maybe there's a way that if you were an all-knowing person, that you could calculate what that is. But the reality is that it's unknowable to us. And yet we still will pick and choose about what it is that we want to do with our lives. And when we make those decisions, those are not decisions based on truth. Those are decisions based on our own individual faith and maybe a little bit of random chance too, right? That's kind of where I'm getting at. We may not realize it, but it's almost impossible for humans to act without some degree of faith. Is it going to do something here at 13.5? So interesting that they're not taking that there at 13.5. And also notice how whippy the 30-year is today. So when we came back up there, the 30-year really whipped back up, and that pushed the knob spread down even more. Quantum mechanics is a theory. We have faith Higgs in Boston got the numbers right. No, we have, yeah, I think Ace is right there. We do have evidence in that, right? But I'm saying that somebody has to have faith that doing that work and doing all of those experiments and everything will tell us something that is useful to humankind, and that their purpose in life is to be a scientist and do those things. You see, you still don't learn that truth without faith. Makes sense? Or to make it more direct into trading, is only 10% of traders are profitable from the statistics that we get, right? And even a lot of those 10% are not incredibly successful at it. So for you to come in and say, I'm going to become a great trader, that is not something that you could possibly say is based on some sort of scientific understanding of truth or logic, that you know that you will be able to become a successful trader. Because the truth of the matter is that you do not know. And in order for you to even consider pursuing the thing in the first place, it requires a little bit of a leap of faith. And of course, that does mean, as I think you've pointed out, very, very many people that get into trading end up getting taken for a real, get taken advantage of. For sure. Hey, Jake, welcome back. A lot of people get taken advantage of, but some people do end up being successful, and somehow, luck or whatever other else thing it is that they have that gets them through it. But some people do it and are successful. But you're probably unlikely to even get started without some belief in there. Well, people is swapping the word faith for hope. But aren't they related things? Wouldn't that be a related thing, though? I think. We have the Ark over in Kentucky. If you look that attraction up, it's rather cool. Flat earthers make me crazy. Explain. Oh my gosh. You want to talk about flat earthers? Have you watched the Netflix documentary Behind the Curve? We've talked about this before, but if you have not watched Behind the Curve, you should totally watch Behind the Curve, because it absolutely shows you how people will cling to a stupid belief because of social reasons, which is totally relevant to what we're talking about, because I see that sometimes too. They kind of look like they want to bump up through 14. Well, there you go. See, there was a lot of volume, but see, somebody's taking it off there at 14. I would like to take a short still, but I don't think that they're going to give it. I go on to the live streams and listen to the flat earthers. Well, then you might even know. So what Behind the Curve is, it's on Netflix, and they basically chronicle some of the most prominent flat earthers out there. Why are you only talking about random stuff? You know what? We just talk about whatever we feel like talking about at the time. The market, it's a Monday, so the thing is markets tend not to be very good on a Monday, and it's not necessarily giving me very good signals. But the thing is if you have an observation or something you want to talk about, always be sure, always comment about it, because We want to get into the things that are important. It's kind of like if there's something important to say about trading, then we talk about it. If there's not, then we kind of just talk about whatever we feel like. And usually there's some way to liken it back into trading, like we are here, because really trading is a lot like the rest of life, really. I think it's hard to get good at trading and not be good at other things in life, right? Because so much of trading is being able to control your own emotions and what is the word? Biases and things like that. Ace says, I was just trying to get Seth to realize that religion is a scam. No, probably not. I'm probably, if we were to look at it from the perspective of biases and things like that, I think that you would have to say that I'm too far invested to ever realize it. But you see where I'm saying that, like, because I 100% believe it, but and yet at the same time I realize that there are biases that would make me want to believe it, and so on and so forth, right? But I've made the conscious decision to accept that and go through with it. Is Seth religious? Yes. Well, I go to church every Sunday. I wouldn't say that. And I went on an LDS mission. I wouldn't say that I'm. Yes, cognitive dissonance is a thing, Seth. Yes. But that's where I'm kind of like. So one of the things that I think is that I've noticed that a lot of these things that you only find in religion, or at least traditionally tend to find in religion, do appear to have significant beneficial impacts on people, right? Like we know that religious people, that there's differences in terms of happiness and quality of life and things like that, and it's a complicated thing. So I'm not going to try and give a generic assertion of what that is, but we know that there's differences, and so there's things like meditation is a thing, right? And that meditation is helpful, for instance, right? Or another one that I don't think is talked about a lot, but it seems to me that ritual is useful to humans for some reason. And so if you were to put those things in there, I think that what's happening in society today is that because we were traditionally attaching to religion for those sorts of things, now that religion is pretty dead in our society, many people don't have that anymore, especially that social connection, and so they're turning to politics for their religion. And it seems to me that the melding of what I will say tribal faith-based thinking and politics is a very dangerous thing, right? And I do not believe that this whole like the Church of Intersectionality, for instance, is one side, and on the far right there's this desire to basically create a theocracy. I don't think that those are very good things for society, right? So the question is, how do you, if you were to craft a religion, how would you craft a religion that has all of those things that we know are beneficial to people, and yet is still compatible with society, and what would be the best for everybody? And as of yet, I have yet to see one that I think is better than Christians, and in particular the LDS Church. And I've thought about, well, okay, if you were going to set something up, what would it be like? But I don't know what the differences would be, other than you need to have something that is flexible and moves with the society itself. Jake says I am a former Christian. Okay, so there's 15. Isn't it quite funny that I should have taken that long, shouldn't I? when I was like, well, if I really wanted to screw people up, I would take it up to 15. But it didn't give me any reversal, right? The last reversal that we had was maybe a short. And then when we came down here, I guess there was a little bit higher activity, so maybe they were kind of showing us a little bit, but it's 822, it's probably not. Best for everybody would be to have as many people as possible, to have as many true beliefs and as few as possible false beliefs as possible. Oh, well, okay, yeah, I suppose I can agree with that. But there's going to be some beliefs that are just you don't know about, right? Anyways, I don't remember why I was going down that particular thought. I think that there was another part that made that line of discussion that I forgot about. Isn't that me? I just start going down something and then I forget where I was going with it. Humans need the truth, not comfort. Well, I think the question is where, because I just don't think you can know everything, right? Yeah, I don't think that you can just know everything, and I think that there are some situations where you have to act without a perfect knowledge of something, right? Which I would term as faith, right? So the question is, what things in your life is it okay to have faith in, and what things in life is it not okay? Right? That's kind of where I'm getting at. And in my mind, I think that if a person chooses to have faith in a particular religion, as long as that religion is not causing significant harm to himself or the community, then it's okay. So, for instance, I really don't think that the Muslim faith has been a positive thing for the world. Just my opinion. Some people will say that that's racist or something, which is silly, but I just look at the way that life is in countries where that's the dominant religion and things, and I don't think that that's good for society. I don't think that makes people happy or gives people freedom or anything like that, Having a false belief in your head causes harm? Not always. So, that's why this tendency in humans has evolved, right? Because there are times when it's better that the tribe stays cohesive and together on something than it is that they actually know the truth on something. So it's kind of an evolutionary, what is the word, quirk? It's kind of an evolutionary quirk that we are finding more and more in modern society can cause some serious problems, but right? Because now you're taking tribal thinking that was evolved to handle a small group of maybe 100 people and trying to scale it up to billions of people, and you start to have trouble when it gets to that sort of a thing. But there are totally times, I think. Well, no, think about it with the China thing. I suppose that on my case, I think that the situation with trade in China is pretty clear, and there's certainly a problem. I think everybody knows that. What the right way to deal with it is a different sort of a thing, right? But here's the thing: is that if you go through with it, you're going to make a choice about how to deal with that. It may or may not be the most effective way to deal with it. But I'll tell you one thing that would certainly be ineffective is for you, for this society to choose a direction about which way we want to go, and then half of us fight against it, right? So it's not committed. It's kind of like, sometimes being committed to a course of action is more important than getting the correct course of action, because if you go in and you do something decisively, that gives so much more a chance of you being successful than almost any other consideration. That's why I think this particular thing has evolved. They're kind of giving me like a short there at 15, but I don't think I'm going to take it. I think that 15 would maybe be where we would want to take it, though. Christianity would, of course, be very much harm if people believed every word for word, but almost all Christians nowadays make their own rules and ideas out of the Bible. Yeah. No, I mean, it's a good point, Jake, right? Is that Christianity, to a degree, has evolved as society's understanding of the world has evolved too. Yeah. And he says Islam's Reformation failed, which is why they're the biggest problem in the world right now. Well, and it's a fair, it's a point. This is another spot where I think that the LDS Church has a function to resolve that problem, but for some reason, we tend to fight it for some reason, right? Which is like just the thing with the modesty. Like, I think Aza's pointed out a thing. The way that the LDS, well, like, I take it a little bit more simple to a degree in which I think everybody agrees with, right? Was it Elizabeth Smart, when she was abducted, she said that she was taught that if she wasn't a virgin, that she was worthless, or that's at least what she thought. And so she was less, she says that it kind of hurt her, and that victims would be better off if we didn't teach that thing, right? So when we learn something like that, there needs to be a way for the belief system to adjust to our new knowledge in a way that's appropriate, so that we don't pick up new beliefs that are stupid, because that's what I think happens on Asa typed in there Elizabeth Smart. Yeah. No, you're totally right. And I think that the church is trying to make that change, but there's still so much of this thing where we seem to think that when we're given a particular standard, that it's like a part of the gospel per se, and not just a recommendation for that particular to people at that particular time, that's going to change when society changes, or our understanding changes, or the church is more ready for, or whatever reason you come up with to justify it. But it has to change. Some of those things have to change. And the church overall, I think, does change it, but maybe are too slow to do so. Wouldn't you think that God, Sack Puppet would have gotten that right a long time ago? No. Because there's plenty of reasons why we would be allowed to go with an incorrect understanding of something. And like I said, it can always be situational, right? Like, it can be, like, that's where I think, like, maybe in the 70s, maybe wearing a bikini, there was maybe reasons why that wasn't a good thing for you to do. But it seems to me that now that it's not a big deal. And so the funny thing is the church never denied, they never said, oh, okay, bikinis are okay, but pretty much everybody has forgotten about it. Just like at one point the church said you shouldn't play with face cards, and almost everybody in the church plays with face cards. Although I did have a neighbor down the street when I was a kid that said that was evil and wouldn't let their kids play with you if you played with face cards. So you're okay with God leading people astray? Well, like I said, oh wait, sorry, what was the second part of your comment? That God isn't worthy of my worship. Wow. So I said it could be situational, right? It's just kind of like that's the other thing that's kind of difficult with this sort of a thing. Is like, if we want to set up a standard, we have to accept the reality that a standard that would be good for one person is probably not good for another person. You know, like I personally, if you are a teenager, I would not recommend that you go to raves. Okay, I've been to many raves. I did the DJ thing and I was quite into it. But if my kids wanted to go to a rave, I certainly would not let them go alone. I'll tell you that much. And why? Because even though when I've been there, I think it's great music and there's really great open people and it can be a really good positive experience for sure. I think it's totally something worth getting into because it can be so positive. But I also know, and I've seen so many people that have absolutely destroyed their life. Absolutely destroyed their life going to those things. So they get into drugs, they get involved with the wrong people. They don't discriminate. They don't they don't have a strong enough sense of self to be able to keep their center when there's so many radically different things around them. How about a standard to well-being for humans of not to? Well, I mean, if we were to say, what is the best thing for society, like in the case of raves, should we ban raves? Because many politicians have tried to do that, right? Because they've made the decision that because of drugs and things of that nature, that it's bad. And I don't think that that's the right decision to make as a rule, as a society-wide rule, right? So that's where you can kind of come in and there's things that you can say, okay, well, right now it's a problem and maybe the church, they say, you probably shouldn't do that. But then later on things change and it's not a problem, or for that particular person, it's not a problem. And, I just think that we try and make it too prescribed, Too prescribed, I think would be the word. Because there's no way that you can ever possibly construct a set of rules or standards that is going to give you the correct answer in everything all the time. Just like I don't think that you can never, you can't construct a trading strategy that's going to give you 100% win rate. It's not possible. You can only improve your strategy, over time. Why would the church have any better idea about anything? Well, does it have to? Who would have a better idea? Who would have a better idea? And you have some good points. It's just, this is kind of like, to me, I think the thing that I'm not convinced about is that giving the what is the word, let's use the word power. I don't understand how giving that power in your life over to something else would make your life better. Because I don't see it. When I look at people that put their faith, because like I said, you have to put your faith in something. When I see people that put their faith in other things, I don't think that it's made their lives better. Except for when the people that are in clearly bad religions. No one is better at coming up with ideas than anyone else. Sure. Okay, sure. No, yeah, okay. I agree with that. But I'm just saying, you have to make some sort of decision about what you're going to do, But I agree with, I think I see where, because I think that your problem, it sounds to me like wait, you have another comment. So it turns out the best way to figure things out is having true facts and empathy, not guessing and saying you got it from the wizard. Oh, well, okay. No, it sounds to me like your primary concern or the thing that you see wrong in the LDS church is that because we're too authoritarian, essentially, right? So that we hold what one person said to be so much the standard that we will pursue clearly wrong-headed ideas or policies because we're unable to adjust. It's like we have to be told. And I think it's a valid criticism. I think the church is trying to resolve this problem, but it's going to take a long time. I'm losing faith in ZN Long. Think I'll close it. Where did you take it long at? Live? Hope it wasn't here at 15. That would suck. I'll go lover if seller sold bounce below 165.19. My problem with the church is it turns out feelings are not a reliable path to truth. I believe, well, okay. So not to, I'm not saying that this is like a counterpoint to your argument, but I would argue that it's more than just feelings. So I think that on a base level, it's kind of presented as feelings. And I think that is done because that's an effective recruitment tactic. But I think that the church's position is far more take it on faith and go through the actions and it'll be confirmed to you. I was MIA talking on the phone. Oh, yes. Dreaming of the tango. Oh, man. Anyways, like, so what would, let me take this in a slightly different direction. Let's put it this way. Okay. So if we were to say that I, suddenly had a crisis of faith or something of that nature, right? What would be the thing that I would be doing in my life or, today that I shouldn't be doing or that it's harmful? Because in my mind, like things like the church standards that people that tend to push people away from the church, things like drinking, for instance. If the church came out tomorrow, you and I both know that comes. And I think it's. I think that the church's teaching on that is intended to be more than just feelings. But sure, many people do get into it because of feelings, for sure. But no, if the church were to come out and say you can drink beer now, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it because I know, because I'm ADHD, that it would be a bad thing for me. So it's kind of like, I don't think I would change anything. So at that point, it almost doesn't matter, does it? But that's where the thing is that I think it's become, Do you read the King James? Well, so the Mormons read the King James version of the Bible. And the LDS Church has like a Joseph Smith translation, which isn't really a thing. Oh, that's complicated. So you will learn something new. Maybe if you were an LDS person, you might learn something new about this. So Joseph Smith went through and he took the King James version of the Bible, and there were certain spots where he believed, because of, he claims, revelation, that the translation was incorrect or that it needed to be clarified. And so he has a King James translation where there's a couple of little things that are different and it's a little easier to read. It's not like the new and revised version that is so popular among Christian churches today. It's still the King James version. But anyways, so he wrote this thing. But here's the thing, is that it was later on in his life when he died, and the rights of it ended up going to the reorganized church that is out in Missouri. Otherwise, I wouldn't be surprised if Mormons would be printing the King James version of the Bible and, would be printing the Joseph Smith translation instead of the King James. But no, we read the King James version. And then in our footnotes, it'll say, oh, here, in the Joseph Smith translation, he said, he translated it as this, and that should give you a greater understanding of it. But anyways, Winston's mom says no. Mormons are like the middle range of the church, and LDS could be compared to Orthodox. That's not the way that. So here's the way that I would look at it. When the LDS church is like the Catholic Church, right? They believe, or we believe rather, that God has authorized representatives on the earth, and that there is a clearly documented process through which that leadership is supposed to change, and that you're supposed to be able to trace that authority back to Jesus Christ, right? So the Catholic Church believes that Peter, I guess it was the leader of the church after Jesus left, and then he, ordained other people, and then when Peter died, the authority went to some archbishop somewhere, and then they can trace the Pope's authority through that, right? The LDS Church believes that authority was lost and was restored back to the earth through angels at some point. Okay, so it is a highly organized, structured church. There's not like, you can't just go like with most Christian churches, you can go and just start a church. You can choose to become a pastor and just go and start your mega church somewhere. You can't do that in Mormonism. You cannot do that in Mormonism, right? It's all organized. New word is created through authority from church leaders when based on growth in the area, right? And but one of the things that's weird when you get into a church like that is that there's always some disagreement of some sort. Like, people will say, well, I don't agree when the LDS church said that we're not supposed to be polygamists anymore. So then somebody will break off and start their other church. And so there are literally thousands of break-off churches from the LDS church that claim to have the correct authority based on the premise that the main church was somehow led astray or isn't it anymore. Does that make sense? I think it's maybe a little hard to describe for people that are outside of that world, but that's basically the way that it works. This is actually, so they're past 15. They're actually going a little bit higher than I expected. Oh, A said, how can someone know the church is true? So the reason I was saying is that the church's doctrinal position on it is that you have to exercise faith. That's the key thing that I'm sitting there out there saying. So that's where I was kind of going through. It was like, I think that it's so much a part of, how I live my life. If it was gone, I don't think that anything would change for me. I really don't. I wouldn't start drinking coffee or anything like that. I think that the smell of coffee makes me nauseous. Ugh. I do not like that smell. And I wouldn't drink or do any of those things really. I actually, because of my colon problems, I'm told that smoking would actually be beneficial for me. But there's no way I would start that. No way, because I wouldn't be able to stop doing it. I don't think I would. So I wouldn't change any of those things. So, and those are kind of like the main things that people don't like about being in the church. So I'm not quite sure. So you believe, but how does one find out? No, I just did. Sorry, what was it about what I just said that didn't answer the question? Oh, I missed Wynn's comment here. Many religions or the church has this teaching. Church on Sunday and baptism or risk eternal wrath. I think people need rituals, traditions, and rites of passage. Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. It seems to me that these things, that they're beneficial to people. Like really, this belief is Confucianism is really what it is. Like Confucius' whole thing was that people needed ritual in their lives, and he believed that they should do. He basically dug up ancient traditions, and he said these were things that people were doing when they were successful, so we should do them too, because they worked at that time, and we don't necessarily understand why they were successful, but they should. That was the Confucius belief. So I think I agree with that to some extent, that people need ritual in their life. And so if we say that there is to take it from a purely logical perspective, then the question would be, how do you formulate a set of beliefs and traditions that would be most effective going forward? The Tao of Pooh is enlightenment. Oh, man. Anyways, so how would people find out if it's true? What are the steps? So I think that the steps are that you have to exercise faith and do a bunch of things, and then the truth of it will be confirmed to you in some manner. And we would say that it was, most people describe it as feelings, but I don't think it's quite so much that. Because I think that really what it comes down to is that it kind of becomes a part of you through doing the actions, if that makes sense. Oh my gosh, my kids are so loud. So get used to this, folks, because they're going to be... They don't go to school today, but they're going to be up at this time every day. And I think that my wife woke them up at the appropriate time so that they're used to waking up and will go to bed on time tonight. Well, you act like you believe, and then the truth is confirmed in a feeling. Well, that's where I'm saying I don't know if it's necessarily a feeling. I think there's too much emphasis on the feeling part of it. I think that some people feel that it's been confirmed to them in ways that was not a feeling, like a burning. So it's chopping back and forth now here between 14 and 16. So one of the things I'm noticing is that I'm not man. Child. Hold on a second. Excuse me. Do you guys want the entire internet to think that you're all crazy? Because that's what the internet thinks when they hear you yelling and screaming like that. So if you could be a little bit quieter, I would appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, I hope you guys heard that, because that was funny. So they looked back at me and they had no clue. They're like, oh, that's right. Anyways, that is a horrible way to know anything. He will come in you and have a Jesus inside of you. No, Lewis, it's the Holy Ghost will confirm the truth of it to you. That's the thing. So in the LDS Church, there's a scripture that talks about it, and it says, read the Book of Mormon with faith, and then the truth of it will be confirmed to you by the power of the Holy Ghost. And most people describe the power of the Holy Ghost as the burning bosom sort of a thing. But there's been many, many talks, and the church has talked about this many, many times, that that's not really the thing, I guess you could say. It's a spiritual thing, but it's not. I wouldn't necessarily say it's just a feeling, personally. But Ace doesn't seem to accept that that answer, so I don't know what else to say to him. But I wouldn't say that it's just a feeling. But anyways, what were we catching? Somebody else said something here. Yeah, I think I really like, it's kind of weird because we've talked so much about on here about that you need a little bit of everything. Like one of the things problems that we have in society is that everybody seems to think that people should be like them or think like them. And I believe that what I've learned from history is that when you start doing that, you run into problems. You run into very serious problems, and that you need a little bit of everything. And we talked about that a lot on the stream, and I just find it really interesting that Wynn talks about that a lot too. But I don't think that she found the stream because of that. I mean, how would you possibly know that we talk about that on the stream all the time, you know? But it's kind of cool that, you know, it's kind of one of those things. There could be any number of things that it does and that we would never be able to know or calculate. And so people just say that energy attracts energy or something like that, you know? Put it down to that. But anyways, what else is it than a feeling? Well, I think that it could be many things. I think that for some people, it's a series of series of logical thoughts in their mind that gives them the confidence to continue going forward in that particular course of action. Yeah, I found the stream because you were discussing the debates. I turned in because you're smart and kind and interesting. Well, thank you very much. So this is something that I've struggled with because I've made a couple of political videos, but I tell you what, making political videos is not very rewarding on YouTube right now. I think maybe there was a time, maybe 8 years ago, where I could have done those kinds of videos and I would have done really well and I would be really happy about it. But as it stands right now, it seems like that the only way that you get any attention on YouTube from doing politics is by getting people to hate you or to have built up that influence. And so I thought, well, maybe I should, because I used to do a video every week and I haven't been doing a video every week about the Democrat primary because it was kind of like, well, there's no point in it. But then we did find Win from doing that sort of stuff. So it's like, I shouldn't give it up completely, but I'm not going to put as much effort into that stuff as I was, because it just seems like it doesn't work. And plus Democrats, the advertisers just aren't willing to give money for Democrats. I'm telling you that the pay-per-click from Democrat clicks is less. It is. I'm not even joking. The data that I have, at least from my videos, says that it's less. I was thinking about making another one. This thing about Charlottesville keeps coming up. And there's a lot of things that I see people say about Charlottesville that are just not true. And I can prove. For instance, one of the things that I hear many times is that Heather Hoyer didn't actually get hit by the car, that she just had a heart attack and that's why she died. Total bullshit. I can show you on the videos, she got struck by the car and dragged almost 20 feet. And it was a miracle that she stood even a chance of surviving that. She should have been dead on the spot. But yet I continue to see people push this, and I was like, well, maybe I should make a video about that. But then it was like, probably shouldn't make a video like that. Like, you don't make money off of a video like that. Yeah, like I would turn advertising off on a video like that. So then it's like, so I really want to go through the effort to do that, just to have a bunch of conspiracy theorists get mad at you because you proved their cognitive dissonance, you know? It's usually not worth it. Ace is probably saying the same thing. He's like, yeah, I tell people, like, but all you get is the cognitive dissonance. They're never going to accept it. Faith in God, also a good thing, is also a good thing. Liberals and conservatives both say the other wants authority and they want equality. No, well, I think it would appear that way on, you know what, hold on. I got a thought for you, but I need to post these cryptocurrency charts first before I get to, because it's almost time to go. Like 3 minutes here, I'm supposed to go. And so there is a very subtle difference, and I will explain it to you. Why would you believe in something without evidence? I mean, at some point, if we went long enough, I think that we would be able to point something out that you probably believe without evidence. Or at the very least, something in which you do something and you can't necessarily prove. Like, I might be able to get you to say, well, we don't really know, but I still do it. I mean, everybody does something like that. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to live. I'd have to know you, but I probably would give you, like there's something that you eat or some habit or something that you believe about health that you might believe is proven, but you don't actually know. And maybe it is proven, but you didn't start doing that thing because you went out and read all of the evidence about it and saw that there was formal studies on it and things. And I mean, good grief. You read that? Remember that study where they said that like 70% of studies out there or something like that, that with their math, the things that they were saying were statistically significant really weren't statistically significant. Like, man. There are so many things that you could believe that was proven and actually wasn't, Okay. Peter Navarro. The bikinis today, why bother? Man. So when I was going to say, okay, early access, hold on. Monday. Okay. So, in terms of like one side wants authority, wants to oppress the other side and the other side wants freedom and things like that, there's a very subtle difference between authoritarianism on the left and authoritarianism on the right. So authoritarianism on the right, by the way, it's giving me reversal signals here. Maybe we're going to go higher. I don't know. I am so ADHD today. I'm sorry, guys. On the right, people on the right believe very much in having leadership and following through with the leadership because that's effective. Totally 100%. And so people on the right are much more prone to fall for, like a maniacal dictator type person. There's without question. But people on the left are much more likely to reject people that do not think the way that they do and want to try and get everybody to believe the same thing. And they can often become very misguided and try and force those beliefs on other people to an extreme. And so that's why you see kind of the strange dynamics that we're seeing today, right? Here you have the right has put its trust in pretty much, quite strong leader. When I say strong, I mean like, I don't want to say that he's an authoritarian, but he tries to portray himself as though he is a strong leader. They like him because he's strong, right? He won't bend, and he knows what he wants to do, and things like that. And so because we do that, we get whipped all around because he is probably ADHD, seems a little fickle, and even if it was a regular person, that's just way too much to put into one person. But maybe there are some benefits in doing that, but there are pluses and minuses of that kind of a strategy, right? And then meanwhile, on the left, you kind of have this thing where the left kind of believes some ideas that quite frankly are nonsense and have no basis in fact, although they seem to think that they have basis in fact. And they want to try and force those ideas on everybody else because they think that if everybody believed those things, that society would be better or fixed or something like that. And so it really becomes a thing between the oppression by the leadership versus oppression by the mob. That's the difference between them. Those are really functions of the political strategies that they tend to use, because Democrats tend to be very high in conscientiousness, which means that they want everybody to be nice, and they want everything to be better by if everybody can believe the right things. But then that also means that they are much more likely to just not be nice to you if you don't believe in the right things, even if they're actually open to talking to people. Because the conscientiousness and openness kind of have some strange interplays between each other, but are two separate personality factors within your brain. But I don't think I completely understand that. But anyways, whereas conservatives kind of have those other values and things they're on their mind, like loyalty, for instance. You owe a degree of loyalty to the United States, and you should follow your commander-in-chief, even if sometimes he's a little crazy. Trump is an ESTP. His shadow functions are showing, and so his attachment theory and transactional theory. Yeah, probably. I'm telling you, though, he's ADHD. That explains half of the craziness. So, for instance, Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney doesn't like Donald Trump because he's ADHD. Because Donald Trump basically ran on the same platform that Mitt Romney did, and then Mitt Romney turned around and said, "Oh, this would be so dangerous. We can't elect this guy." Mitt Romney is not picking up on the policy differences. He doesn't like Trump's personality because Donald Trump is ADHD and Mitt Romney is extremely, extremely, extremely high in conscientiousness. Like probably as far high in that particular personality trait as a person can get, right? And so when he sees somebody that's ADHD and he can't follow their thought process, his immediate thought is, I don't like this person. We need to get rid of him. I know this because I see it I've met these people in my own life. And they just don't like you. They don't have a reason. And it's because they can pick up on the fact that you're ADHD. Whoa, look at that go. Well, I'm glad I stuck around for another 5 minutes. What was that? Did we have a news event there? Was the E-mini dropping throughout all that? Sorry, I have Bitcoin over it. really. In fact, the E-mini is moving up during this. I don't see anything in 6J going on. I do see in the British pound, though. And a little bit in gold. So I think something just came through there with Forex, but assuming that we don't get man. Okay. Anyways, I gotta shut it down now. I apologize for that. I know that not everybody always enjoys every conversation, but hey, we talk about what we want to. That's kind of the thing. We can talk about other things tomorrow if we want. That's because there are no they. They are moderates and extremes on both sides. Hence, people all thinking Republicans are racist and liberals are socialists. It's simply not true. Thank you very much, Win. I agree. Totally one of the bigger problems. Anyways, I will catch you guys tomorrow. In the meantime, stay profitable, friends.